Good morning, Year 8. This morning we are doing our first of two lessons on ratio. This will introduce some ideas about ratio, some of which you may be familiar with and some of which you may not. The whole idea of ratio is to compare quantities of two or more different things. If we look at this first slide, you will see that we are comparing the ratio of cups to glasses. How many cups are there? How many glasses are there? Well, if we look at the diagram, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4 cups. So we type in 4. We use two dots, a colon sign to represent ratio, and we read it as 4, 2, and then we count how many glasses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we type 5. So the ratio of cups to glasses, we read it as 4 to 5. Looking at example 2, the ratio of chicks to chickens, we've got 1, 2, 3 chicks and 1 chicken, so the ratio is 3 to 1. 3 to 1, that would be our answer. In the third example, the ratio of sweets to donuts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sweets, and 1, 2, 3 donuts, 6 to 3 is the ratio of sweets to donuts. Now, just as with fractions, we can simplify ratios. What I mean by simplifying is if there is a common factor of both these numbers, we can divide both these numbers by that common factor. What number goes into 6 and into 3? Both of these numbers will divide by 3. 3 goes into 6 twice, and 3 goes into 3 once. So what we have here is a simplified ratio. This is an acceptable ratio, but this is the simplified version of that ratio. And we'll meet simplifying ratios in a little bit more detail shortly. What I would like you to do first of all, this slide here shouldn't take you more than a couple of minutes. I want you to write down the ratio of hot dogs to donuts, the ratio of crabs to fish, and the ratio of onions, these are onions, these pink things, to eggplants, these funny looking purple things. I've got this symbol here, this means pause, and I want you to pause your work, pause the slide for a moment or two, and do this slide. Okay, let's see how you did. Here are the answers. Question 1, 4 to 7. Question 2, 3 to 8. And question 3, 9 to 4. Hopefully you'll have got 3 out of 3 correct. Let's move on. Right, we're now going to look at the idea of simplifying ratios. We can simplify ratios with more than 2 numbers. Here, for example, we've got 3 numbers, 20, 15 and 10. So if we use this as an example, 20 to 15 to 10, what we have to do is we have to look for a common factor of 20, 15 and 10. Well, 20 and 10 both divide by 2 and they both divide by 10. But 15 doesn't divide by 2 or divide by 10. We have to find a factor that is common to all 3 numbers. And the only factor other than 1 which is common to all 3 numbers is 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4, 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So simplified, this ratio becomes 4 to 3 to 2. Sometimes we might get a tricky set of numbers. We might get something like 121. No, sorry, let me take a different one. 124 to 62 to, let's say, 36. Okay, it may not be immediately obvious what is the largest common factor of those 3 numbers. However, since all 3 are even, we can immediately see that all 3 will divide by 2. How many 2's go into 124? 62, we just halve it. How many 2's go into 62? 31, we just halve it. And how many 2's go into 36? 18, we just halve it again. Now, if you know your prime numbers, you will know that 31 is prime and only has 1 and 31 as a factor, neither of which, well, 31 doesn't go into 18, so we cannot simplify this ratio any further. But sometimes the ratios can be simplified further. Let's take 72 to 64 to 56. Again, you might not be able to see immediately the largest number that goes into all three, but they're all even, so they will divide by 2, giving us 36 to 32 to 28. And the reason I chose these numbers is because they can be simplified again. All three even numbers, so we can get 18 dividing by 2, 16 dividing by 2, and 14 dividing by 2. And oh look, we've ended up with three even numbers again. Simplify, we get 9, we get 8, and we get 7. We cannot go any further, 9 to 8 to 7. Now if you look at this, we could have gone straight from 72 to 64 to 56. We could have gone straight from there to 9 to 8 to 7, dividing by one number, and that number being 8. 72 divided by 8 is 9, 64 divided by 8 is 8, 56 divided by 8 is 7. If you can spot the largest number, the largest common factor, then you can do it in one stage. But if you can't spot that largest common factor, there is nothing wrong with doing it in several stages by looking for common factors. Okay, now what I want you to try and do is the ones on the left here. As many as you can. Obviously we've done the first question now as an example up here. These are the two I just made up now. So we're going to pause your work while you try and do the questions. Okay, let's move on to the answers. Here are your answers. Mark through them, check you've got them correct. It may be that in one or two cases you may not have simplified them all the way, but that's the idea about simplifying ratios. Moving on. How to split an amount into a ratio. Now this is a very important technique, and it is something that constantly appears on your GCSE exams, and I basically split them into three different types of question. Your most basic, a little bit harder, and a little bit harder still. But none of these are really that difficult. It's all about taking an amount and sharing it into a ratio that we are given. So here we are given the ratio 7 to 2. And what that means is we've got 63 and we're going to split it into 7 shares and 2 shares. Or 7 and 2 make 9 shares. So we're actually going to split it, let me reduce the size of the text slightly, we're going to split it into 7 shares, add 2 shares, we're going to actually end up with 9 shares in all. 7 shares and 2 shares, we're going to have 9 shares. And we've got 63, that's what we're starting with. So we've got to divide that by 9 to find out what one of the shares is. And 63 divided by 9 is 7. So that is the value of one of our shares. There's the value of one of our shares. Now in this group we've got 7 shares. So we need to know the value of 7 shares. Well, 7 times the value of one of our shares is 7. 7 times 7 equals 49. And then the second one, we've got 2 of our shares. 2 times 7 equals 14. So split 63 into the ratio 7 to 2 gives us 49 and 14. And since that is our answer, we really need to underline that final stage. And remember, we show our workings every step of the way in order to score maximum marks. Now this question is just a worded version of question 1. Martin and John share 15 sweets in the ratio 3:2. How many sweets does John get? Okay, so what we've got 3:2, so how many shares in total have we got? Well, take the underline off. We've got 3 add 2, meaning that we've got 5 shares in total. We've got 15 sweets, and we've got to share those 15 sweets, got to divide those 15 sweets into 5 shares. 15 divided by 5 means that there will be 3 sweets, and that is the value of 1 share. The value of 1 share. Now Martin is getting 3 shares. If we look at our question, we're not interested in Martin's shares. We're only interested in John's shares in this question, and John gets 2 shares. So John will actually get, just a moment, just want to change the colour, the size slightly. John gets 2 shares, and each share is 3 sweets, 2 times 3, which equals 6 sweets. Final answer, underline it. Okay, just look at that again. We add up how many shares there are in total, 3 add 2, which is 5 shares. We take the number of sweets and divide it into 5, so we know how many sweets there are in 1 share. Since John's getting 2 shares, he's getting 2 lots of those 3 sweets, which is 6 sweets in total. Finally, number 3, Mary and Beth share some money in the ratio 4:3. That means Mary's getting 4 shares, Beth's getting 3 shares. Mary gets £20. How much does Beth get? Now this is slightly trickier because we're not told how much money they're sharing in all. So what we do here is we start by writing Mary to Beth. And underneath we write the ratio that they are sharing their money in, which is 4:3. Okay, so that's how they're sharing it. Now we know that Mary is getting £20. But we do not know at this stage how much Beth is getting. So what we have to do is we have to look at the numbers that we've got. For every £4 Mary gets, Beth gets £3. That's the ratio. Now, how many 4s make 20? How many 4s make 20? 4 times 5 is 20. Now, whatever we do to this side of the ratio, we have to do the same to this side of the ratio. So we have to multiply this 3 also by 5. Change it to blue. And what is 3 times 5? £15. Okay, in order to keep the ratio of Mary and Beth's amounts in the ratio 4:3, if Mary is getting £20, Beth has to get £15. Thinking back to simplifying ratios, if I divide 20 by 5, I get 4. If I divide 15 by 5, I get 3. It's just the reverse of what we were doing. So Beth, our final line that we need to write for the answer, Beth gets £15. Remember, we must answer the question. Beth gets £15. And there we go. Now, on the next slide, let's move to the next slide. I have 3 sets of questions, bronze, silver and gold. The first set of 8 questions, are just like question 1 here, example 1 here, splitting an amount into a ratio. Very straightforward. The second set of questions just takes it one stage further, and they are similar to question 2 here, to example 2 here. And the third set are the ones that are just a little trickier, and are like the third example that I showed you here. So what I want to do now, and this is where the bulk of the lesson, the bulk of your time should be spent, is actually having a go at as many of these questions as you can. So if you want to pause the video now and have a go at as many of these questions as you can before we move on to the answers shortly. Okay, Year 8, let's see how we've done. These are the answers, bronze, silver and gold. Okay, Year 8, that is your lesson for today on ratio. Your next lesson, as I say, will be on ratio revision, which covers a lot of what we've done today, plus a couple of little extras. Thank you very much for your time. Take care, stay safe. This is Mr. Allard, signing off.